What's up, everybody? My name's Big Cam and welcome back to another Monday morning weekly nerdy news podcast. I'm your host, Big Cam, and this week was a chunky week. We got a decent amount to talk about. We got some Superman new posters and new little teaser trailers getting put out, and tickets are about to be on sale for that. Fantastic Four First Step sales for tickets went through the roof and crashed a bunch of the ticket sale websites of Fandango, AMC, Regal. I think it crashed all of them, which is crazy. I didn't think the demand for Fantastic Four was that high, but apparently it is. So we'll be talking about that later in the episode. There's also some Eyes of Wakanda news that we're going to be getting. I believe Eyes of Wakanda comes out like August later this year. We also have the Star Wars Starfighter. We found out who the villain will be, starring across from Ryan Gosling in the directed by Shawn Levy Star Wars film that will be coming soon. And a bunch of other movie posters, some Rotten Tomato scores, so let's jump right on in it, shall we? So I've been trying for a few weeks now, but still have not been able to get over to the movie theaters to see Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. Somehow I haven't had it spoiled for me either, so I'm counting my blessings there. But this last weekend ended up being a real shit show, and I was up in New Hampshire helping my buddy Bana and his dad. You know, they had to take down a gazebo at their boat, at their marina, and they had to take one down and put it back up, and it was pouring rain, and we're out there working the whole time, and it was miserable. So I wasted my entire Saturday and wasn't able to go see this, and then I was gassed on Sunday, and my mother punted on me again, so she doesn't want to see Mission Impossible, I guess. So now I might even have to go alone. But Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie were out promoting at the movie theaters, throwing popcorn around, and they're double promoting, much like they did for Dead Reckoning. They were promoting something else. I believe it was Barbie and Oppenheimer were at like the same time, I think. But Ballerina is also out in theaters right now, and I've been wanting to go see that too with Ana de Armas, and we'll talk about that in a second. But Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise, I really like the two of them together, and I'm dying to see what they did with Final Reckoning. But also, I know they're going to be making more movies together in the future. But also another duo that was awesome over the last week on Actors on Actors, the little video series that Variety does on YouTube. They had not only Colin Farrell and Danny DeVito talking to each other, which was just priceless, just two actors talking to each other, but two guys that also played two very different versions of the Penguin character, with Oswald Cobblepot and Oz Cobb with the Colin Farrell's version in the Penguin TV show. And just hearing them chat with each other was great. And then there was another interview with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Patrick Schwarzenegger, his son, and talking about White Lotus and talking about, Terminator and Predator, and how his son is now, kind of walking in his footsteps, doing nude scenes, showing his ass. You showed your willy. And then he goes, I don't know why I'm judging. I did the Terminator, Conan the Barbarian, a bunch of movies where I did the same thing. I was naked. And he goes, I just didn't think he was going to be following in my footsteps so closely. But imagine that with Arnold's voice. It was quite funny. But I like those interviews quite a bit. But moving on to movies and what we're really here to talk about. The movies over the last week that came out, there was a lot of them. And in June alone, I thought July was the month for movies. No, apparently June is also the month for movies. So this summer for movies right now is insanity. So just this last weekend, The Phoenician Scheme, Wes Anderson's newest movie, came out with the crazy cast, Benicio del Toro, I believe, starring. But that and Ballerina came out over the last weekend. Next weekend, we have How You Train Your Dragon live action in The Materialist with, I gotta see that Celine Song movie with Chris Evans, Pedro Pascal, and Dakota Johnson. But honestly, her press tour for this movie, she's been seeming to be having a lot of fun. The three of them have been hilarious together, so I'm actually quite interested to see this movie now. And you guys know me, I'm a sucker for a love story, so that seems right up my alley. So I can't wait to see that. A franchise that maybe you guys could explain more to me, The 28 Years Later. Is that the same as The Quiet Place? Or is this a different thing, but kind of similar? Because isn't The 28 Years Later also like 28 Days Later, 28 minutes later, right? Isn't this like the third or maybe even fourth of these movies? I'm not sure. Comment below if you have seen these movies or if you know more about them. I don't really know anything about the 28 days later or 28 years later, but I know the cast in that in the trailer people were very hyped on, but I just don't know anybody that's seen them or haven't seen them myself, you know? But coming out the following week, 28 years later, and also Elio, June 20th. And then the week after that, the last week in June, June 27th, we got Brad Pitt's F1 movie, which people have been hyping up and saying is crazy. And then Megan 2.0, which is like a robot teenage girl slasher movie. At least that's what I'm assuming from the first one in the trailers. But I haven't seen it, but people liked it enough to get a second one, so I don't know, maybe people are into that. Comment below if you're going to be here for Megan 2.0. But Ballerina, one of the movies that I want to see so bad, came out over the last weekend, so I've been kind of rewatching the John Wick stuff because this is obviously in the world of John Wick. John Wick's also in this movie. It's set between the third and fourth of the John Wick movies. So, you know, I'm dying to see Ana de Armas, though, as this role of Eve, I believe is her name. And she's, you know, got tattoos, and she's a killer, and she's, you know, pretty much the female Baba Yaga. And I'm sure people will hate it for that reason alone. They're making everything cool. Like, fucking women aren't badass and sexy as hell. Stupid motherfuckers. But just because I haven't done it in a while, and since we're talking about bad motherfuckers, some of the photo shoots that Ana de Armas has been doing for this press tour have been unreal, and just gonna give her Ana de Armas the baddie of the week for June 9th, the week of June 9th. This black and red with the silhouette of her body looked insane, and then this image with just like, this looks like just like a selfie she took, but her eyes, the way that they're popping in that image, I was just like, serving looks for days, Miss Ana de Armas. And then she's got that beautiful accent, so every time she speaks, you're like just, you know, you find yourself getting dragged closer. You know, you're just like, wow, she's so beautiful. She talks so beautiful. I could listen to her speak all day. But the Rotten Tomatoes score for Ballerina right now for a rated R movie that is 2 hours and 5 minutes long, so pretty good run time. 72% critic score with 145 reviews. Not bad compared to the other John Wicks. I think it's at the lowest for the critic scores. But a 93% audience score, so people are seeming to like it, but critics not so much. Maybe they're just comparing it to the other John Wicks, which I don't know if that's fair to say, but I've also heard a lot of people say that this is a proper entry into the John Wick world, you know? So they're giving Ana de Armas the props, but also kind of saying John Wick's still better. I don't know. I'll have to see it for myself to let you guys know if that's true, but that is the Rotten Tomatoes score. But another film that came out over the last weekend on Hulu, Predator Killer of Killers, came out, and this animated anthology series goes through like 3 different settings, right? So the first one I believe is 941 AD and is Predator versus Viking, and then the second one is like 1609 AD or whatever, 1609 our time, whatever. And it's like samurais, so it's like Predator versus Samurai, and then we cut towards like 1915, 12, I don't know, whenever the World War I or II was happening, and it's like he's a kid, but he's like, it wants to be a pilot. He jumps up into like a kamikaze type, you know, fighter pilot thing, and I think he's for the like Americans, but he's in like a fighter pilot, you know, one of those old fighter pilot planes, and there's air-to-air combat versus a Predator in his, you know, ship. Looked awesome. And then they tied the 3 of those all together at the end into another story, and then it ends on a huge cliffhanger that like could tease the next Prey movie, the next, you know, animated movie, the next Predator Badlands it could tease, you know, because as much as this is animated, it's from the same director, Dan Trachtenberg, that did Prey, and all I'm saying is that it was really good and I enjoyed it, and a movie review itself will be coming out later this week. But the Rotten Tomatoes score is 97% certified fresh critic score with 63 reviews, and it's sitting at an 88 audience score, which you know this is good if the critic score is higher than the audience score. Really good. I really liked it. Hour and 30 minutes, but it's animation, so they pack a lot into that hour and 30 minutes. I've now seen it twice over the last weekend, from Friday, and I watched it, I believe, Sunday night. And I saw things the second time around that I missed the first time around, just because it goes so fast. You know, you look down for a second, check your phone, you miss stuff. You go to the bathroom or something, you come back and you click and you forget stuff. You know, like, I don't know. Like, I watched this over again and felt like I saw a completely different movie because of all the things I missed the first time around. But now, like, the second time around, I'm getting more of a grasp of like what's going on, what's happening, who are these characters. So now I feel like the third and fourth time I watch it, I'm really gonna like really start loving it even more. And not to say that I didn't really like it, because I did. But it's just what animation in a movie like this, like, there's just so many details and things that you could miss, and it goes by too quickly that you're just like, you don't even think about it, right? Like the background, you know, like you can watch this entire movie and just for the background and shit going on, it's really cool. I thought it was really well done, but that's now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu, I believe. But a new movie that's been in the works, and a trailer came out last week that looked really interesting, and we have some images here from Vanity Fair first looks of Margot Robbie and Colin Farrell in Cogonatas, which must be the director's newest film, A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey. And the first trailer showed Margot Robbie and Colin Farrell, and the film follows two people who go on a magical journey by entering doorways that transport them to their pasts. And this is coming to theaters September 19th. So they go through doorways and it transports them to their pasts, and they get to like relive moments from their past. So maybe they're like really deep in a marriage and they're like struggling to find that spark, so they go back to the moments where they had their sparks. I don't know, but it's also kind of was described as like a, what was that, something mind, Heartless Mind, Shape of Mind. I think it had Kate Winslet and Jim Carrey. I'm just blanking on the name of the movie, but like it was described kind of as that. And I don't know, Colin Farrell, Margot Robbie coming off of The Penguin and, you know, Barbie. And Margot Robbie just had a kid, so this must be her, like, you know, first movie after the pregnancy type of thing. Or maybe this was right before the pregnancy, who knows. Colin Farrell, Margot Robbie, is that something you guys are going to be interested in September? Comment below. Now, this next topic I thought was fascinating, because there was a big old trailer that had some gameplay, but also, like, teasing the story that's going to be going on. And they haven't done a 007 James Bond video game, I don't believe, since GoldenEye, you know what I mean? Like, it's been a long time since we've gotten a 007 game, and it's coming to Xbox and PS5, and I don't know if it said when, but the title of the game is 007 First Light. And comment below, I haven't necessarily, I do some trailer reactions every now and again, but I haven't necessarily done a trailer reaction for a game, I don't think, yet. But if you guys want me to do a video game trailer reaction to this trailer that came out last week, let me know down in the comments, because 007, I could definitely get on board of talking about that trailer, because it looked really interesting, and I am a gamer, and I like, you know, the movies, 007 movies, and it's not necessarily Daniel Craig's, it's kind of like an origin story for Bond, which we never really got, you know, like we've always kind of been teased or heard details about it, but we never really gotten further backstory on like how he became the guy, you know what I mean, like an agent, how he became noticed, how he got the scar on his face. Most of the movies never have the scar like they do in the novels, but this guy does, you know, so like, I don't know, comment below your thoughts on the newest James Bond video game. Another new movie out right now, and here's a poster for it, and it's been getting excellent reviews. An absolute miracle, a masterpiece, an emotional epic. It's a Wonderful Life for today. Oh, what a great little quote there. Truly profound and magical, the best Stephen King movie ever made. One of the most profoundly beautiful films ever made, an unforgettable experience, a pure shot of feel-good, and this is obviously based off of a Stephen King novel from director and writer Mike Flanagan, who also just wrote the Clayface movie for DC, but isn't going to be directing. But this movie stars Tom Hiddleston, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Karen Gillan, and Mark Hamill. So it's starring Loki and Nebula and Luke Skywalker and Mordo. But Tom Hiddleston, I'm going to have to check this out because I love my boy Tom Hiddleston, who is confirmed to be coming back in Avengers Doomsday as Loki, but we just don't know how or why, but he'll be there. Another trailer, though, we were just talking about some trailers and some new movie posters, but another poster here for Wicked for Good, You Will Be Changed for Good. And this is obviously the Good Witch of the East, or whatever, the North or something, Glinda, in her bubble, and then we have the Wicked Green Witch of the West. And Wicked for Good, coming November 21st. And honestly, I've come around on Wicked. The first time I saw it, I was like, it's kind of stupid, and it was kind of like overdone, and it's just incredibly done. You know what I mean? It looks beautiful. The sets, the costume design, the music, the cast was really good. You know, like Cynthia Erivo absolutely crushes. Like, yeah, I can't wait to see the second one. And then apparently the second one ties in like the original Wizard of Oz and has the Courage of the Cowardly Lion and Dorothy and the Tin Man and the Scarecrow. So like, I'm gonna really buy into that, because the whole first movie I was like, wait, how is this the Wizard of Oz? Like, so now it's kind of tying into the Wizard of Oz again. The Oz himself, the wizard, was Jeff Goldblum, which is great. And then we also have Michelle Yeoh in there being a little mischievous like that. But here's another image from Vanity Fair, first look of Glinda and Elphaba's looks, and we see her pointed hat and her sproom and her black versus the white and pure, right? Like, such polar opposite parallels, you know, where one's clean and pink and pretty and one's green and dark, and, you know, like, I don't know. But there was a trailer for that really was pretty good, so if you want to see a trailer reaction to that, comment below. But something that I probably will be coming out with a trailer reaction for later this week is a TV show coming to FX later in August, and that is Alien Earth. And I've now become a big fan of the Alien movies, the Predator, the Alien vs. Predators, and I think between this series and maybe Predator Badlands, I think they're bringing the Predator and the Alien back together, and I'm here for it. I know some people really didn't like those early ones, but I was here for them, and I liked them. And we here have a face hugger hugging the Earth, and the trailer had like teased that maybe there will be like 3 or 4, maybe 5 different species, not just the xenomorph that escape on Earth. Nuts. I mean, also alien stuff. I mean, I don't think we've ever gone to Earth in the Alien movies. I think we've always been in space. So the fact that it's coming a little bit too close to home might be scary, but like also might be a nice like summer vibe show where it's like, yeah, it's summer, but like when you sit down at 9 o'clock or, you know, whatever, late at night to, you know, go to bed, but also like, you know, start settling down, this might be a nice little show to like be a show, but also get those spooky vibes in your system, but also like something cool. I think this show's gonna be a very good. I'm very highly optimistic about that show, you know, especially with the Noah Hawley director, who I've heard great things about, or writer, whatever. Yeah, I think Alien Earth's gonna be great. But we were just talking about Wicked, so talking about other wizards and evil dark wizards, Tom Felton is returning as Draco Malfoy in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child on Broadway, which is a Broadway play, which apparently is very, very different to the movies, but still kind of cool that Tom Felton is getting to return now as an older Draco Malfoy for this Broadway play, and he will be starting to be on this Broadway play in November. So if you want to see that, go head over to New York, I'm guessing. November 11th is for the first showing of Tom Felton as Draco Malfoy in The Cursed Child. But on to one of the bigger topics of today, if you clicked on the title of this video and the thumbnail. The Star Wars Starfighter movie from director Shawn Levy, starring Ryan Gosling, that got announced at Star Wars Celebration in Japan. Recently, earlier this week, there was a report that got put out by The Hollywood Reporter that Mikey Madison, who is just now an Oscar winner for her last film, Honora, she turned down the villain role for Shawn Levy's Star Wars Starfighter film over a pay dispute. Huh. I know she's young, so maybe they were like, you know, trying to pull a fast one, like, yeah, here you go. And she's like, I'm an Oscar winner, and you want me to be your main villain starring across from Ryan Gosling? You're gonna have to pay me. And they were like, we could pay somebody else that we have in mind. And apparently whoever else they had in mind was Mia Goth. Because Mia Goth, whatever, is now signed on to star. And they didn't say that she's going to be in the villain role, but like, you know, it just a couple days apart, these reports that Mikey Madison turned down the lead villain role. So that, what does that say? That even though she turned it down, the main villain of this Star Wars Starfighter movie is a female. And she's the villain, right? So she's probably darker, which, you know, Mikey Madison has the darker hair and the darker eyes. So, you know, I could see her being a Sith or an Imperial type of female, like, you know, bad guy. Mia Goth, same type of thing. She's going to be in Frankenstein, the new Guillermo del Toro film. So, you know, already kind of got those dark vibes going from that film. And she's just kind of got, like, the dark vibe face. If you kind of look at her, you're like, she's beautiful, but, you know, mysterious in a dark way is how I picture her face and soul whenever I see her. But Ryan Gosling, this movie is going to have great humor. You know it is, because he's hilarious, but he's also a badass. So, you know, I'm sure it's going to be like Blade Runner, but also like The Nice Guys because he's funny, but also like Deadpool Wolverine because of Shawn Levy. I don't know. I'm very curious to know more about what Star Wars Starfighter is about. Other than it's set 5 years after the Rey trilogy, I believe. So it might connect in the way that characters from those movies might show up. And in that sense, I'm guessing maybe like a Lando Calrissian or something. But like, I don't think too many people are going to be showing up. And I definitely don't think Rey or anybody is going to be in these movies. Because it's definitely not like episode 10. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the next movie in the Star Wars Skywalker saga, if you would. It's another Star Wars film, almost as if it's Solo or Rogue One. You know what I mean? Like, Star Wars, but not the trilogy or like the saga. But moving on to some first look images from Superman, this Empire exclusive of Lex, and he's got to be in the Fortress of Solitude here. But yeah, I'm really going to love Nicholas Hoult in this movie. I just think his Lex Luthor is going to be so good. But the character posters have been released, and we have a Superman, a Crypto, a drone droid, number 4 of the Superman drones, and I believe that's going to be voiced by Alan Tudyk. And then we also have Eddie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific, Isabella Merced as Hawkgirl, and Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, the Green Lantern, and he's got his bowl cut, so they all look hilarious. And then, speaking of bowl cut, they had this little teaser promo that came out, I believe during commercials for like the NBA Finals or something like that. And this, I had to pull this little clip because Rachel Brosnahan, I thought, was so funny at the end of this, and just like Nathan Fillion's reaction to her talking to him. But here it is.
That haircut should be against your vows.
That what? That what should be what?
That haircut should be against your vows. My what? My what should be what? You know, like, oh God, I didn't think she was going to be interacting with Guy Gardner too much, but apparently she is. I think Rachel Brosnahan is going to be a very, very big role to this movie as Lois Lane. There's also popcorn buckets for Superman that got released that look like they're going to be like a newspaper stand, like where you would go and, you know, open the thing and pull out a newspaper, like you're buying a newspaper from the Daily Planet. And it looks like, you know, the front opens and this will be a popcorn container. It says the Daily Planet on the side with Superman logo on the top. I don't know if I will get this one as a popcorn bucket. I do collect some of them. I think the popcorn buckets we'll talk about for the Fantastic Four First Steps, I will probably get more than this one. Pretty cool nonetheless. But moving on to some Fantastic Four news. There is a bunch of new posters, and this one here where it says the Invisible Woman, the Human Torch, the Thing, Mr. Fantastic, and then there's a logo beneath it where it has like the regular blue, more of like an invisible blue, a Rocky 4, and then a fire on the 4. Yeah, just a nice little Fantastic Four posters here. And this one they released for the tickets now on sale and only in theaters July 4th, and I kind of really dig this poster. You got Pedro Pascal's Reed, dead center. You got kind of like the futuristic, but also 60s vibe New York in the background. The Fantastic Car, Herbie. You got the Fantastic Four with Ben Grimm the Thing. You got the Human Torch, the Storms, with Susan and Johnny Storm. I really dig this, and it says, you know, Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, Susan Storm, Invisible Woman, Johnny Storm, Human Torch, and Ben Grimm the Thing. I really dig this, and you can see the fantastic, the Baxter Building in the background. Very cool, very cool. I can't wait to see this futuristic design of New York that they have going on in this movie. It's going to be really cool. Got another poster here that says welcome to the family, with the Fantastic Four all sitting on like this couch, and Herbie serving up martinis. And you can see on the bottom of Johnny's boots there that the bottom of the boots also have the fours on them. I'm still questioning why everyone has like this white design on the arms and Reed doesn't around his like neck. It's like blue, it's not white. It almost looks like it should have been white. But, you know, maybe he was making the rest of their costumes and ran out of material, so his has to be different because he cared more about their costumes than his own. Maybe. I hope they explain, though, why his is blue and everyone else's is white. There's also this poster that might be fan-made of the Galactus looming over the Fantastic Four. Another one here with Johnny pretty much on fire and trying to... You know, just a bunch of these posters came out just with the Fantastic Four. You're just going to be seeing them everywhere. But the little teaser that came out over the last weekend also had a tease/confirmation that Franklin Richards, their baby, is going to be in this movie. Now, someone also said that it could be a flashback or like a memory or like a vision of the future, which it could be. But, you know, this looks like the little baby Franklin is looking in deep into his mama's eyes, and Reed's there too, you know, this big happy family. But it's crazy that this little baby Franklin Richards is more powerful than most of all of the heroes/villains we've seen throughout the MCU at this point, and he's a baby. You know what I mean? Like, crazy. But there's also, before we get into some theatrical posters in the popcorn buckets for this movie, they also released this press statement / like their synopsis of the film for when the tickets went on sale. And this came out June 4th, Wednesday of last week, in theaters and cinemas of planet Earth. And release number 004D, and tickets on sale now for Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four. The countdown begins for the epic film's July 25th theatrical opening. Tickets are on sale now for Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four First Steps. Future fans can purchase advance tickets wherever tickets are sold. Marking the milestone, a 75-second new look and a partner posters are available to download and share. Set against the vibrant backdrop of the 1960s-inspired retro-futuristic world, Marvel Studios' The Fantastic Four First Steps introduces Marvel's first family. Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, played by Pedro Pascal, Sue Storm, Invisible Woman, played by Vanessa Kirby, Johnny Storm, Human Torch, played by Joseph Quinn, and Ben Grimm the Thing, played by Ebon Moss-Backrack, cousin from the Bear, as they face their most daunting challenge yet, forced to balance their roles as heroes with the strength of their family bond. They must defend Earth from a ravenous space god called Galactus, played by Ralph Ineson, and his enigmatic Harold Silver Surfer, played by Julia Gardner, who will be Shia Ball, Silver Surfer, I believe. And if Galactus's plan to devour the entire planet and everyone on it weren't enough, it suddenly gets very personal. Probably because Galactus wants that baby. The action-adventure also stars Paul Walter Hauser, who could be Mole Man, John Malkovich, who could be their parents of the Sue Storm children, could be Daddy Storm, and Natasha Lyonne and Sarah Niles. I don't know who Sarah Niles is, but Natasha Lyonne, I'm guessing, is Alicia? Is, I believe, her character's name, who is going to be the girlfriend of Ben Grimm. At least that's what I'm hoping, because I think her and Ebon Moss-Backrack bouncing off of each other as like a couple would be hilarious. But they finish with The Fantastic Four First Steps is directed by Matt Shakman, who also did WandaVision, and produced by Kevin Feige and executive producer Louis D'Esposito, Grant Curtis, and Tim Lewis. Now, I didn't receive that, but that was posted online. Hopefully one day I will receive those press briefings from Marvel themselves, but, you know, with due time. But we have some theatrical posters, and this one here is for Regal, and this is the Fantastic Car popcorn bucket that you could buy at Regal. Now there's a Fandango poster with the big old stretched out four on the ground with the four of them at the top of the four there. That one's not that cool, but hey, Fandango. Now this one is a Real D 4D or Real D 3D. Get it? See what I did there? With the four, with the Fantastic Four up front, with the Baxter Building in the background, and the Fantastic Car behind them, with Herbie poking his face in the corner there. That's kind of cool. A Dolby Cinemas one with like a kind of futuristic version of like their face, or like almost like a 60s version of their face, but also a spaceship, and then kind of Reed's stretchy hand reaching out towards camera. But yeah, Dolby Cinemas. Discover it at Dolby Cinemas, AMC. There's also an IMAX poster here for the Fantastic Four and the four of them, and I like how much they're putting out different posters. Sometimes I struggle to find a couple of posters. This time I have like 20 here. It's crazy. But the popcorn buckets for this are insane. I already showed one with the Fantastic Car, but they also have announced the universe's biggest popcorn vessel at over 21 or 20 inches wide and 17.5 inches tall. They have Galactus's ginormous head as a popcorn bucket. Now this one I probably will have to get. You know, it just would be cool if Galactus's big old head was sitting back there somewhere, like, I don't know. But they also have some commemorative character totem cups with includes, you know, like the little different versions of the cup, and then the little characters that go on top of them, kind of like Deadpool and Wolverine did with these. You know, they have a Wolverine one up there as well, but, you know, with the head pool on top there. Not bad. I never really use these as food or drink items. I just kind of buy them as collectibles. And then this last one that I thought was very interesting, where this could include a large popcorn, a large drink, and candy, plus a space to store all three of these things in this Herbie concession vessel. And Herbie holds it all for you. It's also maybe like a robot thing that rolls around. I don't know. Or I think you might have to just carry it. But like, a whole vessel? I don't know how big this thing is going to be, but a whole, you can get Galactus's head, the Fantastic Car, or a whole Herbie? I don't know. I might have to get all three of them. Like, I don't know, but that looks really cool. And just to finish out today, I believe coming in August, we have the animated Marvel animation show, the next Marvel animation coming out, which is going to be the Eyes of Wakanda, and this image here of the, you know, villains, and I believe this is a villain, and it's set way, way back in like the earlier past of the Wakandans, and rumor has it that the Iron Fist, but not the one you think, will be in Eyes of Wakanda. So then this made me think of like, okay, Iron Fist, and then I was thinking about the show, and I don't remember the show a whole lot, but I did just watch Defenders and like, you know, Daredevil to rewatch for the Defenders series for Daredevil Born Again when that came out. So I remember in that they find a giant corpse of a dragon that I believe Danny Rand said was a former Iron Fist that he defeated, or someone defeated, and then, you know, now it's been passed down, he's the Iron Fist. So maybe we get a early Black Panther versus the Iron Fist dragon? Maybe? Or maybe it's just like an early version of the Iron Fist, you know? Maybe a comic book accurate looking version. Who knows? I think that would be a pretty cool idea. And then, just to finish off, I thought this was an interesting image because, sure, this isn't the order that they've come out from theaters, right? But this is the setting of when these came out versus the, like, when they are set in the MCU, right? So, for example, I believe WandaVision came out in 22? Early 22? Like, April, I want to say? Or even maybe, like, February? But either way, it's set, WandaVision is set November of 2023 in the MCU. Shang-Chi is set April of 2024. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is set between April and August of 2024. Spider-Man No Way Home is set between August and November because we see time pass where like she's taking down Halloween decorations, but then there's also snow. Then we go to Eternals, which is, I think Eternals came before Spider-Man No Way Home in the actual release schedule of this movie, but in the MCU it's set in fall of 2024. And then we go to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which is supposed to be set in November of 2024. Hawkeye is in Christmas time of 24. Moon Knight is April to May of 25. Wakanda Forever is May of 25. Echo is also May of 2025, which leads into She-Hulk, summer of 2025, right? So She-Hulk definitely came out in like 22 or 23, and now we haven't even reached the summer of 2025 yet. It's only June of 2025, and so get what I mean here? When it's set is later this summer is when She-Hulk is set. Quantumania is set in July of 2025. It seems Ironheart is going to be properly set when it comes out in June of June 24th. Later this month will be the first 3 episode premiere of Ironheart on Disney Plus. So, you know, as that show runs into July of 2025, that show will be set kind of in the current present day of not only our time, but also the present day of Marvel's timeline. But then we go into Secret Invasion, which is apparently summer/fall of 2025. I don't think we're ever going to acknowledge Secret Invasion again, but now they're saying Secret Invasion comes after Ironheart? That's crazy. But Miss Marvel, which came before She-Hulk, I believe, is set in September/October of 2025. Which then goes into The Marvels, which is October of 2025, leading into Thor Love and Thunder, October 2025, Halloween of 2025, Werewolf by Night, Christmas Holiday Special of 2025 for the Guardians, early 2026 for Guardians 3, Agatha All Along is set November of 2026, interesting, November of 2026 to April of 2027, because they go through the, you know, New Year's Eve and then into the following year, and they pass like St. Paddy's Day, so we'll probably somewhere in April of 2027 for the start of season 2 of Daredevil Born Again. Captain America Brave New World, which came out February of 2025, is set April 2027. Interesting. Thunderbolts is May 2027, and then Doomsday is going to be set 2028. Huh. I wonder how accurate this is, because this could be just fan-made, just guessing, but I feel like this is pretty close to where the actual projects are set in the MCU, if you wanted to get, you know, a deeper understanding of when these things are taking place, because sometimes it can be confusing, because it's not, you know, just how they came out from the theaters is how they're set, right? Like even the first Captain America is set before Captain Marvel, which didn't come out till like 2019, you know? So it's like first Avenger, Captain Marvel, and then Iron Man, where to me the first Marvel film is Iron Man, but then really it's Blade 1, you know what I mean? Which is now back in 98. Because now Deadpool and Wolverine brought in Blade. Spider-Man No Way Home brought in the Spider-Man movie. So now, you know, if it wasn't Blade, it would have been Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man set like in the early 2000s. Deadpool Wolverine brought back Hugh Jackman. So now you got to bring in the X-Men from the 2000s, right? So now the MCU timeline that used to just start at Iron Man and go from there has now been expanded to the older stuff, right? Like now it's the Fox stuff. And, you know, even though some people go, that's the Fox universe, the Sony universe, the Blade movies, now it can kind of be Marvel canon, all of it together. But not everybody sees it that way. So comment below what your thoughts are. Where does the MCU start? Do you think these setting dates are correct? And just to end up real briefly, you guys know I'm a big Marvel Hot Toys fan now at this point, and they just announced the other day that they're going to be doing an Age of Apocalypse Wolverine variant from Deadpool and Wolverine. So you guys know that sequence where they had a bunch of different Wolverine variants, and then they had one that was Henry Cavill, the Cavalrine. I would love to see a Cavalrine Hot Toys figure, you know, have 15 seconds of on-screen time and then have a figure forever. That would be so cool. But I do like how he has like a black and red kind of like full suit, and he's got a fucking severed arm for some reason, which I don't understand how you sever Wolverine's arm. Wouldn't it grow back? But This one has a metal arm, and it looks like the claws can come out of his metal arm, so that's kind of cool. But his head sculpt, people are saying that the face is the same Hugh Jackman face that they've used on all of the figures. But at least this one, the hair sculpt is pretty wild, you know, and he looks like a full rabid Wolverine, you know, out in the woods hunting, you know, like that type of thing is how I picture that hair. But yeah, will I be getting this? Maybe, I don't know. This wasn't my biggest one, you know. I probably would have rather had the red and brown suit, or like the brown and yellow suit that he fights Hulk in, but who knows, will we be getting more Wolverine variants or more Deadpool variants? I mean, I still might need to get Nice Pool and Lady Pool and Kid Pool, and then have a full shelf of them, but I'm still waiting on a whole bunch of figures, you know. I'm still going to be waiting for the Daredevil until 2026, and then later, I think September, for Wolverine and like Captain America. Like, I have a lot of figures coming that won't be here for a while, so like, you know, I'm itching to get some new ones in, but then I still have a bunch that need to be unboxed, so stay tuned for this upcoming weekend for some Hot Toy unboxings, some cool ones coming your way. My name is Big Cam. Thank you guys for joining me on this Comically Boston Monday morning podcast. I ran a little bit long today, I had a lot to say, but we had a nice big chunky episode to talk about as well, so thank you guys for coming on by, and if you'd like to support the channel, the best way to do that is liking this video, commenting down below, subscribing if you haven't already, hitting that bell so you don't miss next week's Comically Boston Weekly Nerdy News when it comes out on Mondays. But thank you guys so much. If you'd like to follow my other social medias, links for those down in the description below. Big Cam, 2 G's in the Big, pretty much anywhere. Instagram, Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, Letterboxd. If you want to see my other movie reviews, go check those out. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Once again, my name is Big Cam, and I will see you beautiful people in the next one. Peace!